Hi everyone, David Aragona here with Craig Milkowsi, and we are taking a look at the final race on Breeders' Cup Friday. It is race 10 at Del Mar, the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, going a mile for the 2-year-old colts and geldings on the turf course at Del Mar. And Craig, with the news that we got last weekend that Todd Pletcher was not going to enter the likely favorite in this race, Annapolis, this just turns into a completely wide open affair. I would say that there's no clear leader among the Americans, and the same for the European contingent. So we'll see who works out the right trip. And as we throw up the field for this race, as you can tell from the morning line, this one is very wide open.
Yeah, wide open, a huge field of 14. So I think post position is going to play a factor in this race, and just a really solid, evenly matched group that looks great from a betting perspective.
Yeah, I do feel a little bit for the morning line maker. I imagine this is one that he would like to have done after he saw the post position draw, because he did land on the number 14 Dubawi Legend as the slight morning line favorite. I imagine they would have gone in a different direction if they had seen that horse had drawn post number 14, but he is one of the ones that could take some money in this race regardless. Let's look at the Time Form US pace projector for this one, Craig, because I think a lot of different scenarios can play out here. Obviously, we're missing some pace data on those European horses, and you see those listed towards the bottom of the screen of the pace projector there. But we do have plenty of pace data on the large American contingent in this race. Not, though, a ton of front runners, and it'll be interesting to see which jockeys and connections decide to get aggressive.
Yeah, that is a real puzzle in this race, I think. And it's probably worth looking close at those Euro horses as well, reading the time form comments, seeing if maybe some of those might go, because it does appear to be a real lack of pace in here, which is particularly surprising for a 2-year-old race.
Yeah, there are some horses on the pace projector that are shown towards the back of the pack that I wonder what their connections will decide to do from outside post positions. Horses like the number 10 Portfolio Company, the number 11 Grafton Street, and the number 13 Coinage, all horses that have achieved gate to wire success in the past, but they're shown a little towards the back on the pace projector because they're just coming out of some slower paced races. So we'll see what we get from them and if they're quick enough to clear from those outside post positions. Let's get into some of the contenders, Craig. And I think it makes sense to start with the duo of Charlie Appleby runners, because his barn is always dangerous and he's got two strong contenders in this race. Let's start with the number 2 Albar, the winner of the Summer Stakes up at Woodbine. Let's look at the stretch run of that race, because he was visually impressive winning this. He actually blew the start, was off about a length slowly, made a big run to the quarter pole to take this race over, and he finishes up well, though I wouldn't say this was a vintage edition of the summer.
No, it definitely wasn't. I mean, he went off 3 to 5 in this race, coming off of what was just a listed stakes win overseas. He was fine. He ran a 101. As you said, he had a bit of trouble at the start. It is a course that can favor horses that come from behind, particularly in that one-turn mile that they run. But at least we've seen him here. He's certainly a contender. And I would imagine with a different post draw, he would at least be the second choice in this race as opposed to the third as he is now. But as you said, they do that before the post positions are drawn, but he's definitely a serious contender.
Yeah, he's kind of an interesting horse to dissect, because he ran that race in the summer last time. That does, as you said, it makes him a contender in this race. I'm not as thrilled about his European form, and as we get into some other contenders, you'll see that there are some other horses in this race who have earned higher time form ratings overseas than Albar has, but he last ran over there in August, so it's possible that he's improved since then. He was actually gelded in the middle of his campaign over there, so he might just be a horse that's getting better over time. I thought he showed a lot of grit to win that Stonehenge Stakes 2 back over a course that looked like had a lot more give to it than the good rating. So we'll see what we get from Albar, but I think there is a good trip coming from him, especially since he's ridden by Frankie Dettori, who has won this race 3 times. He'll be looking for his 4th victory in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. Though, Craig, I know we're both interested in the other Charlie Appleby runner, the number 1 Modern Games, who is drawn down in that rail post position. And let's take a look at his victory last time in the Somerville Stakes over at Newmarket. And I was really impressed by this victory. He took this race over a long way out and just finishes it off really powerfully.
Yeah, this was a race, if you go onto YouTube and watch the whole race, I don't think there was a lot of pace on early. So it's hard for me to think he's a horse that has to have the lead, but I really like his inside post draw, and I really like how he finished the race off. I think he'll actually probably race better covered up early, and if he can work out a trip from that, I would assume forwardly placed inside post position, I think he is a real danger in here.
Yeah, as you pointed out, he actually showed a different running style two-back when he won that handicap at Doncaster coming from that mid-pack. And similar thing, he made a really long, sustained run for about the final half mile of the race. This horse just has a really strong finish to him, and he can sustain it over a period or a distance of ground. So William Buick is probably can make an early move on this horse. We'll see what he can do from the one post, but I think it's a good sign that Charlie Appleby's top rider, William Buick, does land on this horse, and he does project to work out a nice trip from the inside. And that improving progressive pattern of time form ratings definitely bodes well for his chances coming into this race. And going out for the Charlie Appleby barn, Craig, we've seen this stable have a lot of success over the past several years in North America as we throw up this DRF formulator fact. Just really amazing stats for a European barn bringing horses over, starting in almost exclusively graded stakes races. Just amazing the success that he's had.
Yeah, the win percentage, the ROI, and I would imagine if we just did 2021, they would look even more ridiculous because it seems like he's basically won with everything he sent here this year. So he's certainly not bringing over chopped liver when he sends horses over. He's a guy who sends them ready to run. He picks the right spots, and he's certainly dangerous here.
Yeah, and within that 10 for 27 stat, he's actually 4 for 7 with 2-year-olds, and he's won this race in the past, so definitely both of these Charlie Appleby runners are dangerous. Craig, we should mention, though, that morning line favorite, the number 14 Dubawi Legend, and I wanted to show a screenshot of his time form USPPs, just kind of highlighting some of those time form foreign comments, which I know you agree are so helpful in assessing these European runners, and I think it's interesting to read what the time form analysts had to say about Dubawi Legend, because he's relatively lightly raced, just having made 3 starts, but this is a horse that they had really high hopes for right from the start. He was a visually impressive winner of his debut, maybe not showing the potential that they thought he would in those first 2 races, but he really stepped forward with a nice effort last time out in the Dewhurst.
Yeah, he did. He certainly ran a 106 time form rating. It was a big jump up from his race 2 back. He handled the 7 furlongs just fine. The stretch out to a mile shouldn't be any problem. I just think that post is just super tough to overcome, particularly at Del Mar. His big race last time was on a yielding turf course, so I think you got to take that into account a little bit. He did run fine on firm turf courses, but with a much lower rating. So you don't know how much of that is just improving as a 2-year-old and how much is he really preferred that softer ground. But for me, the post is just a big flag for him.
Yeah, it's no disgrace losing to Native Trail last time in that Dewhurst because he is the top 2-year-old in Europe, undefeated. But Dubawi Legend, he was the pace setter in that race, and he does do his best running up towards the front end. So it's just going to be so tough for him to work out that kind of forward trip from this outside post position. Let's get into some of the U.S.-based contenders, Craig, and we'll take a look at the Pilgrim Stakes, which Portfolio Company is coming out of. He was second last time out to that horse Annapolis, who would have been the favorite here, but was withdrawn due to a setback. Still, though, Portfolio Company, arguably he's the one to beat out of the Americans because he ran so well in defeat in this race.
Yeah, he did, and I'd be a little concerned about the post position, but he has shown pretty good tactical speed. There's not a lot of speed in here. So with an aggressive ride from Flavian Pratt, I think he could establish a good position going into the first turn. He ran a nice 105 speed figure, which stacks up well with anybody in here. And I definitely think he's got a shot. He's 6-1 on the morning line. It'd probably be about that, I would say. It seems like a decent morning line given the field in here, and it is Chad Brown as well, so he's going to take some money, but he may be an overlay. It's just one you're going to have to watch the odds, but I think he's going to run better early than what the pace projector shows.
I agree with that, and I'm also optimistic about his chances of handling a faster pace situation because if you watch Portfolio Company's prior races, he's a horse that gets extremely rank in the early going, and I think he's reacted very badly to some slow pace situations that have just become a pandemic in New York. It seems like every race features a slow pace, and he has resented his jockeys trying to rate him, and I think facing a much faster pace at Del Mar might actually suit this horse because he wants to be free running. I don't think he needs the lead. I just think he wants to go at a nice gallop in behind horses. So I think that he's got the talent based on the last race and the trip. It could work out for him. So even though he has a disadvantageous post, I think that Portfolio Company is very dangerous in this race. A horse that I think we still have to learn some things about, Greg, is Dakota Gold. And let's take a look at his victory last time out in the Now Stakes at Monmouth. He's done everything right in both career starts, but he's taking a big step up in class here.
He is. He's looked good in both his races. I remember we discussed his race at Monmouth on the pace cast. It was one I originally had a much higher number in the 110 range, but they had some timing problems at Monmouth. Knocked it down to a 101. I'm not sure that that numerical change makes a lot of difference. He was much the best that day. Had a good pace to close into, but he's definitely going to have to step it up a little bit. I do like what I saw from him. He draws a good inside post position, and Luis Saya is just going to have to work out a trip, but he did show speed in his debut on the dirt going just 5.5 furlongs. So maybe he will be able to stay closer up. We actually have him in front on the pace projector, mostly because of that race, but I'd be surprised if he led from there.
Yeah, what Craig was getting at with the timing error, if you're looking at the raw fractions for that now in your DRF PPs or in the chart, you'll see that 21-2 opening quarter. That is inaccurate. They went about a second slower at every call of that now. So you can see it was a fast pace. I mean, there is that one red color-coded pace figure in the Timeform USPPs, but it wasn't the kind of supersonic pace that the raw fractions would indicate. So that is why Dakota Gold is shown towards the front end, because he's one of the only horses that is coming out of a fast pace situation where he was relatively close to it. We'll see. I don't think he needs to be on the lead, but it is nice for Luis Saez to have that versatility with this horse, and he's certainly run fast enough to be around at the end of this race. Another horse that could attract some support, Craig, is Tis the Bomb, the winner of the Bourbon Stakes at Keeneland last time out. He's looking for his 4th victory in a row. Let's take a look at the stretch run of that Bourbon. And the part of the race we're not going to see is that he did break through the starting gate and run off a little bit before the race. So it's a feather in his cap that he was able to stay composed and overcome that to still run his race when they actually sprung the latch.
Yeah, he's a horse. I don't have him in my top 4, but I do think he's a contender in here. He's got speed figures, which are a little bit lacking, but when you give a closer look at his past performances, in addition to breaking through the gate last time, he was in the 12 of 14 post. The time before that, he was in the 9 post out of 10 at Kentucky Downs. And that, even though that's a 1-turn mile, not quite the 2-turn mile at Keeneland, it's still not a great place to be and, to draw. So I think he's probably a little bit better than those upper 90 speed figures show.
Yeah, he's definitely a horse that has delivered, and he's won races. I thought he got a great trip to back at Kentucky Downs. That was a race where some horses really drifted badly through the stretch, and he kind of came through the Red Seas opening for him at the mid-stretch to win that race. And last time out in the Bourbon, I would just look at the PPs in horses like Stolen Base and Credibility, who are also in this race. They're really not at the level of the top contenders, and it's not like Tis the Bomb was that dominant over them. So we'll see how effective he was by breaking through the gate last time, but I do think he would have to step up to run a better race to be competitive in this juvenile turf. Another horse that could attract a lot of support, Craig, is another horse coming in with a winning streak, and that's the number 6 McKinnon, the local hope, a winner at Del Mar twice this summer, and the winner last time out of a race we'll take a look at here, the Zuma Beach. Again, he was visually impressive winning this race. It's just what was behind him.
Yeah, what was behind him is really not much. I don't think anyone else is even in this race from that race. He had a great pace to close into that day. All our fractions are in red. And at the end of the day, it was just kind of a slow race. He only got a 92 Timeform US speed figure for the win, despite that nice setup. So he would have to make a big jump to contend in here, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's throw up our picks for this race now that we've gone through a lot of the contenders. And Craig, I'm a little bit surprised that we have the same 4 horses up here in different order slightly, but we do have the same horse picked on top of those 4. That is the number 1 Modern Games. And I would imagine our thinking is pretty similar here. Charlie Appleby has just been so dangerous. And the number 1 post position is going to allow this horse with tactical speed to work out the right kind of trip.
Yeah, I really liked what I saw in the replay we looked at earlier. Love his good tactical speed. Doesn't have to have the lead. I love his extended run. So he's a horse I'm really going to lean on in here. And I'll be honest, I'll be playing a Charlie Appleby box because he's just been that good to me this year. He's done nothing but deliver. So you have to take his horses seriously. I threw in Dakota Gold because I'm not sure what we have in that horse yet. I'm not sure we reached the bottom. He might be up near the front in a pretty paceless race. And I like Public Sector, Portfolio Company, another Chad Brown horse who I think he's better than what he looks. I don't think, as you said, I think he kind of resented being on the lead in that slow pace. And I'd like to see him really get a chance to run. I think he'll be more forwardly placed, and he'll be on my horizontal tickets for sure.
Yeah, definitely post position is going to be of utmost importance in this Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, because you do have to work out a trip going that 1 mile distance at Del Mar. I agree about Modern Games. The one thing I don't like about this horse, Craig, is that I really do believe Modern Games is going to be the favorite in this race. And he probably should be, breaking from the inside, given that European reputation he has coming over. A lot of the overseas analysts really do view him as the horse to beat in this race. And I think even if he drifts down to 3 to 1.7 to 2, that's probably still a fair price on him. I do like Portfolio Company. We'll see how he gets bet. It was kind of a coin flip for me between these two horses, but I do think he's going to appreciate the faster pace of this Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf. So that's a look at the final Breeders' Cup race on Friday at Del Mar. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.